Okay, so we are going to go over just some of the rules and regulations that we mostly in MLS that we mostly have. We're not going to go through them all, just the ones that we see the most. So this is going to be around mostly around excluded listings, the clear cooperation policy, delayed listings, etc. So I we have a slide deck that we had around this. I'm actually just going to go straight to the MLS. Um, and 'cause part of this too, I want you guys to see where you can access and information. Um, and I will also say, I don't know that this is going to take the full hour. It most likely will not. So when you log into MLS, I always get these pop-ups. I'm going to go straight to, so this is what the home screen looks like when you log into MLS. And from here, you hit Flex MLS. And I'll say too, Dennis, we're obviously focusing mostly on Metro MLS. I shouldn't say mostly, we are only focusing on Metro MLS. So I will not have much, I won't have anything on South Central's rules. But that will tip me off to maybe we'll need to do a one-on-one with the Madison office sometime on this, or see if they can host one. Anyway, so here again, this is your home screen. If you hit the Flex MLS, that obviously brings you into the data entry uh, portion and the search functions. But up here, we've got a menu here. So how to join, aligned showing. So if you have any questions on aligned, you can go here. A buyer and seller toolkit, a member toolkit, MLS forms and profile sheets. I wanted to point this out. So if you need kind of a guide for when you are intaking a listing and what information you would need, you can come here and grab this profile sheet. So we've got a residential single family profile sheet, for example. And this is um, this mimics all of the information that we are inputting into MLS. So I think this is a really good tool to have to bring with you on listing appointments. And you can really just go through and take notes. Generally, as a listing agent, you are filling this out um, for let's say like a secretary, your administrative team to input it. So some of this you wouldn't need to fill out for your own sake. But especially on the back here, as you're going through the home, you can start to circle and take notes like, what kind of type of property this is, any water features, lot description, um, style as you're walking through. Is it a one story, one and a half? Is it a two story? I mean, some of this information you're obviously going to have prior to even getting to the home. But architecture here, garage, but this is just kind of a good note or just good guide for you as you're going through because this is the information that you're going to need to input into MLS. So we've got exterior. So you're going to take note, is it brick, stone? Is it a combination of any of these? Are there any outbuildings? Basement? Is it full? Is there a walkout outer or an outer door? Is it block or poured concrete, etc.? The more information that buyers have, the better, obviously. So heating type, heating source, and then the heating type, bath description, appliances are always good. Miscellaneous interior. So you're going to want to look for things like a natural fireplace or a gas fireplace. If there's two or more, walk-in closets, indoor pool, wet bar. Um, So anyway, I just want you guys to be aware that this is here for you. And again, if you're brand new, I would just be bringing this, printing this out and bringing it right to a listing appointment. And then you can see, depending on the property type, they've got profile sheets for each individual type of property. So vacant land, two-family, a rental profile, a multifamily, etc. Over here, we've got exclusion, delayed and listing forms. So we'll get to this in a minute. Some of these, like the delayed listing form, and the request to be excluded from MLS form, we do have these in zip forms, for us to grab and fill out. So you don't necessarily need to come here and grab it, of course. And then if anyone, and if you're getting to the point where you need to or have interest in starting a team, team forms are here, but I wouldn't expect you to remember this, of course. Okay. Then on to our rules and data integrity. If you hit this, we've got three sections here, the rules and procedures, rules, procedures, and clear cooperation policy. So anytime, it's a lot here. It's a 33-page document. But this goes over, and spells out all of the MLS rules, essentially. So, listing procedures. So, within one business day of marketing a property to the public, the listing broker must submit the listing to the MLS for cooperation. We're going to get into that a little bit more. I don't want to read these like line by line, but it gives definitions, the exclusive right to sell listing, what an exclusive agency listing is, open listings. We're doing exclusive right to sell listing. So the conventional form of a listing, the seller authorizes the broker as the agent, the right to compensate and cooperate with participants acting as subagents, buyer's agents, or both, and a contractual agreement under which the listing broker acts as the agent or as the legally recognized non-agency representative of the seller. Exclusive right to sell listings with named acceptance must be identified when submitted to the service. Some of this is just, we don't practice one-party listings, and it gives direction on entering a one-party listing once it closes. This is applicable to us a lot. So if a participant enters into a one-party listing with a seller, that is a listing contract for a specific buyer or buyers or for one seller. Such a listing must be filed with the service within 4 months of the property closing. As indicated in MLS, follow the procedures for addressing a listing, including the public remarks one-party listing. So a lot of times we'll have questions from you guys, do I need to enter a single party listing into MLS? And yes, you do. You're putting in essentially, although I will say, and Joan and I just had a appraiser on with us last fall. Maybe it was early winter already. The days are running together. But you can put the bare minimum of information when you are entering in these one-party listings into MLS. And this is really just to demonstrate the volume and to show, or for people who are looking up what things have sold for in the area, if I'm going to do a CMA, I'll have that information on this one-party listing. That said, a lot of times it is not enough information, and appraisers who are also using MLS as a tool, they are saying we would love it for you guys to put as much information on a property as possible. If something's been updated, at that price, then we have an idea and we can use that in our own research for comparing it to other properties. So Just had to mention that. Um, Withdrawal of listing prior to expiration. So when you are withdrawing a property, um, and the intent is to keep it listed so that you have a valid listing contract, um, you absolutely have that option. And uh, this is for when you want to suspend showings. So when a property is in withdrawn status, you would not be able to show it. But sometimes a seller might make a decision that they need to suspend showings. Maybe there is an issue with the property. Last week we just went over property damage. So let's say in order to get that repair done, you want to suspend showings for a time, then you would put it in that withdrawn status. So listings of property may be withdrawn from the MLS by the listing broker before the expiration date of the listing, provided notice is filed with the service, including a copy of the agreement between the seller and the listing broker. So we would be doing that on an amendment to the listing contract. And then it would just remain in withdrawn until you kicked it back active. Or, and this might be an option, you might keep it in with that withdrawn status, and then once the natural expiration date comes up, then it will just automatically expire. So, um, and then, yes, I think that's all I wanted to show on this. Um, the clear cooperation policy. So, um, this, if you want to read more about it, the NAR clear cooperation policy was mandated, I believe, in 2020. And essentially, what this is tied to listings that are in excluded status. So um, it's always been the case where a seller could choose to keep their property off the market and fill out what's called an MLS excluded form. And the listing firm, listing brokerage, listing agent then could try and procure a buyer while it is off of MLS. And um, the way that we could communicate these listings used to be a lot easier. It used to be that we could go on to MLS, and MLS actually had their own running list of properties that were excluded. And then after this mandate, that had to change. So essentially, what it is that, and I read over this before, but within one business day of marketing a property to the public, the listing broker must submit the listing to the MLS for cooperation with other MLS participants. And this is, they go on to define public marketing. So this includes, but not limited to, flyers displayed in windows, yard signs, digital marketing on public-facing websites, brokerage website displays, digital communication marketing, so email blasts. We cannot blast out to other agents about a MLS excluded listing, multi-brokerage listing sharing networks and applications available to the general public. So why the policy? So for years, the NAR has been tracking the erosion of cooperation among MLS participants. So this erosion seems to be provoked by actions that benefit the realtors over their sellers' needs. So this is a public protection mandate, so, and I don't think, and we talked about this not too long ago in a meeting, but essentially, there was nefarious practices in other markets, much like the recent NAR settlement, it's not stuff that we in our local market were practicing, but the nefarious acts from other markets bled into our market. So, which stinks, but again, the intention of this, though, is to protect the public. So it's ultimately a good thing. Um, but yeah, I mean that's two, and it's $1,000 a day fine. Um, if you are caught marketing the property, and then you do not get it into MLS. So, and we have been fined for that. Um, we were able to work it out and drop it significantly, but one of our agents, I think it was an $11,000 fine that MLS put on them. So we do need to take it seriously. Um, and we've kind of adopted a policy of at your own risk because Joan and I and Kimmy and Andrew cannot be policing this 24/7. So, you know, if people are posting things in our private Facebook pages, you know, we cannot be doing those. And we've kind of got to the point where we're not going to make people take it down. But again, if you're turned in, we can't really, again, I don't know. It's just something that we cannot police 24/7. So if we notice it, we'll reach out. But if we don't, we're not keeping our eyes on it. So at your own risk. Um, that being said, too, we do have the ability to market within our brokerage, and we do have, and I'll show you the guys this on our um, resources tab. Our listing hub, which any questions so far or comments while I'm trying to get to this? Okay. So, I don't know if if where did I don't know if Willis moved it on me, moved it on us.
Yeah.
It used to be like right here. Marketing
Well,
concierge.
it sends out that email every weekend
Yes.
reminding all of you if you do have one of these excluded listings or single party listings, he puts it on a list that goes out to all of you. And yeah, I
Mhm.
haven't been to either.
Here we go. Sorry, I just had to get to the agent hub so you can see that. And I will take this opportunity to remind you guys as well, bookmark this, kwrealtymke.com. We are constantly pushing this, but you should be accessing this website on the daily. But here we go. So the KW Milwaukee Listing Network is a weekly consortium of information for our KW associates. So you have the opportunity to submit. I actually have an excluded listing that I'll be submitting later. And then here you can access the listings report. And so as a buyer's agent, I would be looking at this on the regular and these aren't excluded. If you've got something that fits, if you've got a buyer and you see a listing that fits their needs, then you can reach out directly to this agent. And it's nicely organized. We've got coming soon, excluded listings, um, the single parties, and then actual live listings. Buyer needs. Oh, this must be a new ad. So this is great, you guys. I didn't know that we had added this column. But if you have a buyer need, you can add it to this as well. Um, and so this is on the flip side, if you're looking for listings, you can use this as an excuse to reach out to potential sellers and say, hey, I know that there are active buyers looking for a property that describes yours, and just a good way to get in touch with your clients, potential clients. Um, so, okay. Um, and then back to excluded property, and this is a differentiation between a delayed property, which we'll get into. While a property is excluded, it cannot be publicly marketed. However, it can be shown. So you are free to make phone calls and try and drum up showings while you're in this excluded period. Absolutely. And while that is different from the delayed status, a delayed status is technically a live listing um, that will eventually get to MLS. Okay, any questions on excluded listings? I will also go on to differentiate between excluded listings and single party listings, which I didn't really go make that distinction, but it is important. So, you know, a lot of times people are, our agents are kind of just mudding the two, or what's the word I want? They're not one and the same. So, um, an excluded listing, um, you know, it's strategic. It's after after a listing appointment, maybe the seller has determined that they don't want to go live with their listing. Maybe it is for privacy reasons. Um, and you know, you typically do not have a buyer already in mind when you are going to exclude a property from MLS. Um, some people use the excluded listing as a way to, in this period while the homeowner is doing some prep work, right? And they need more than that 21-day period for delayed status. Then they could put it into MLS excluded. But the intent here is that it's strategic. It's after a conversation with the listing agent or with the seller, excuse me, and you don't typically have a buyer in mind. On the flip side, a single party is typically a more organic pairing of a buyer and a seller. Oftentimes in our meetings, we're having conversations just like networking conversations. I've got this coming up, or I potentially have a listing, or I'm having conversations with a seller who um, may consider selling if I can find them a buyer. And then maybe someone in the room has a buyer. Maybe you um, are able to procure both sides. And I went on a listing appointment not too long ago where I happened to have a buyer looking in this specific for this specific area, right? So if I wanted to, I could present that option to both of them and say we could do a single party listing and explain the pros and cons of that. But I guess what I want you to hear is that the single party listing is not your first go-to. Like that, it would be the MLS excluded route first. Um, the
Yeah, and I want to remind everybody that a single party listing is not an exclusive listing. So that
Yeah.
means if you have a single party listing with a seller, that seller could still sell it on his own while you have a single party listing. Another agent from another firm could sell it because a single party listing is not an exclusive listing.
Yes. Yes. Um, And yeah, so for ultimate protection, then you want to do an MLS excluded listing. So, um, any questions on that? Okay. And then delayed listings. Delayed listing status explained. What can you do? What can't you do? I'm gonna move you guys around here. So the MLS offers the delayed listing status to allow a member's sellers additional to prepare its home before showings begin. So the intent here when this was created, the status was created, was I think it was in response to a lot of people using the MLS excluded listing while they were getting the home prepped. So then people would be, putting in MLS excluded. Then once their home was ready to
Mm.
go to market, then they would expire that MLS excluded listing and then switch it over to what I just like commonly call a live listing, meaning you're going to be putting it into MLS, so like a traditional listing. Um, and it was found that, well, there's not necessarily a need for that. We could just give the seller a period of time while we publicly market it, and, drum up action, while the property is being, continue to be prepped, to go live. So they created this delayed status listing or delayed listing status. So once the,
Oh,
oh, do you have a question? Okay.
nope, sorry. I'm driving.
It's okay. Do you have a question, Leah?
No, sorry.
Oh, it's okay. Um, so you can advertise the property once the start date of the term contract begins, and you can use signs, you can advertise, you can put it into MLS under that delayed status. You can market it on social media. So why this is nice is because under, again, that excluded status, that excluded listing status, you cannot do these things. So that's why the delayed listing status is nice. Because you can, you know, have a full-blown marketing campaign on this prior to showings beginning. The property can be searched for in MLS. Um, and you can, as a buyer's agent, send a copy of the listing to your buyer through the MLS portal. There are some websites out there that have started to syndicate delayed listings, not all of them. I think Zillow might be one. But not all of the top ones do. So just so you guys are aware of that. So I would still be in the habit, as buyer's agents, of proactively sending delayed listings. Accept offers. You can accept an offer in delayed status. It would be sight unseen. Um, and there is one caveat to this, and just because an offer is accepted sight unseen, it does not mean that that buyer can go ahead and see the property after that while it's in delayed. So I'll flip over to the next column. So absolutely on the right-hand side here, no showings are allowed until the start showing date. So no agent previews, broker opens, or public showings are allowed. So even if that sight unseen offer was accepted, that buyer still has to wait until the showing start date in order to see the property. And appraisers and inspectors are not allowed in the property during this period either. So the buyer's not like getting away with anything by submitting an offer in order to see it before everybody else does. So just know that. But it is an option. And actually, I feel like I've been fielding a few calls on that in terms of questions around accepting offers in delayed status or submitting offers within delayed status. And you absolutely can. Seller can absolutely accept. Showings cannot start sooner than what was originally approved by the seller. So you have a 1 day to 21 day window that a listing can be in delayed status. Once you choose that go live date, you cannot move it up, but you can move it back. But as long as it doesn't exceed that 21 days. So just know that. So it's better to err on the side of beginning showings earlier rather than later, because you can always push it back if need be. And then cannot change the status of a delayed listing while delayed. So this, we've run into this a few times, and it's, it's always bad news that I have to deliver to an agent, but if there's a mistake on your delayed listing, I think the one example I had was like a pretty major price difference. I think maybe an admin had missed a zero, so it was like, I don't know, let's just say it was like $1 million listing that went in at $100,000. We could not make that change in while it was in delayed. So just know that have an extra pair of eyes on your data input when it comes to delayed listings, because you cannot make any changes once it's in there. I'm trying to think of the other example that I had. Oh, I know, I had an agent recently, they put it in delay just fine. But the buyer or the seller wanted to, they wanted to expire it, or they wanted to withdraw it because they were not ready to start showings, and they were actually considering already taking it off the market. We couldn't do anything about it um, the until the showing start date. And it was literally like, when I've made my own mistakes on this, I've had to like wait up until midnight sometimes to have it go live, and then for me to like quickly take it out or expire it. So you don't necessarily need to do that, but just know, you know, it's got to be that next morning before you can make a change. So um, same rules apply in terms of MLS entry and timing. So, on your listing contracts, you've got your listing start date. So let's say your listing start date is today, March 10th. Then you've got traditionally, or not traditionally, I mean, per MLS rules, you've got 48 hours to enter it into MLS. And then either if it's not in delayed, then it would just go live, as normal, like a normal listing. For a delayed listing, you are still putting it into MLS within that 48-hour period after the listing start date. But then you're going to be putting in a second date when you enter it into MLS of your showing start date. So, let's say I've got a listing, again, I've got a showing or a listing start date of today, but showings are not going to begin until March 20th. Then I would still get it into MLS no later than Wednesday, the 12th, because that's my 48-hour period. But then within my data input, my data entry, that's when I will identify and put in that showing start date of the 20th. So. And then again, I'm marketing it between now and the 20th when it goes live. Okay. So that is what we have when it comes to MLS rules. I wonder if Joan has already hopped off for our other meeting, but any other questions right now? But these are the most commonly missteps in terms of MLS. It's the listing, MLS excluded, the single party, and delayed listing that trips people up. So, any questions? Anything that you guys want me to show you, or any general questions while we're here? Okay. Well, I appreciate everybody coming on. Next week is the condo listing and condo offer packets and the just basically piecing out the parts of a condo listing packet and a condo offer to purchase that are different from the regular offers to purchase and the regular listing contracts. Okay. So thank you. Like I said, I knew it was gonna be short.